They said it was just a joke, when airline staff shaved a black woman's hair in front of passengers. Her white blouse stained with tears, pearls trembling around her neck. But what they didn't know is that the woman they humiliated was a billionaire CEO. The terminal at Sky High International Airport buzzed with the usual morning rush, voices echoing, wheels clattering against marble floors, and the scent of fresh coffee blending with jet fuel. Standing in line for first class was Dr. Maya Ellison, a poised black woman in her late 30s, her white silk blouse crisp against her skin, her pearl necklace glinting softly under the fluorescent lights. She carried herself with quiet authority, the kind that didn't need to be announced. Few around her realized she was the CEO of Ellison Aerotech, the very company that supplied Sky High Airlines with their cutting-edge cockpit systems. To most, she looked like just another business traveler. Behind the counter, Tiffany Brooks, a young gate attendant with a smirk that never seemed to fade, looked Maya up and down. "Passport, please," she said curtly. As she scanned it, Tiffany's brows rose. "Dr. Maya Ellison, CEO?" she repeated with mock surprise. Her co-worker, Brad, leaned over her shoulder. "No way, she's kidding." They both laughed under their breath. Maya's calm never wavered. "Is there a problem?" she asked evenly. Moments later, as she passed through security, Brad reappeared with a mischievous grin and an electric razor. "VIP service, ma'am. Free haircut before takeoff." Before Maya could step back, he buzzed the razor across the side of her neatly styled hair. Gasps filled the air. Tiffany recorded the whole thing on her phone, laughing. "Relax, it's just a joke." Maya's pearls shimmered. As she lifted her chin, her expression unreadable. "You just made the most expensive joke of your life," she said quietly. Then she turned and walked away, composed, but already planning the storm that was coming. Dr. Maya Ellison sat silently in the airport lounge, her reflection staring back at her from the glass wall overlooking the runway. A raw patch of hair on her head burned, not from pain but from humiliation. The soft gleam of her pearl earrings caught the morning light as she straightened her posture, refusing to let a single tear fall. People nearby whispered. Some had seen what happened. Others simply stared at the elegant woman whose dignity had been violated in front of strangers. But Maya wasn't broken. She was calculating. Every second, her mind replayed the scene, the laughter, the razor, Tiffany's phone camera. Her assistant, Clara James, arrived moments later, breathless. "Maya, I saw the video. It's already on social media. 200,000 views in 20 minutes. Maya's jaw tightened. "Send me the link," she said, her tone measured. On the screen, Tiffany's voice echoed through the speakers. "It's just a joke," the crowd in the video gasped, and then Maya's calm, chilling words followed. "You just made the most expensive joke of your life." Clara hesitated. "What are you going to do?" Maya placed her coffee cup down gently. Nothing yet. But as her private jet prepared for takeoff, her phone rang. The name flashing on the screen made her smirk. Ethan Rhodes, the CEO of Sky High Airlines himself. "Dr. Ellison, I just saw the footage. On behalf of Sky High, I want to offer my deepest apologies. We'll suspend the employees immediately." Maya's voice was calm, almost too calm. "Suspend them?" she repeated. "Mr. Rhodes, I think you misunderstand." There was silence on the line. "I don't want an apology," Maya said. "I want accountability." And with that, the countdown to Sky High's downfall began. By the time Dr. Maya Ellison's flight landed in London, the viral video had already reached millions. News outlets were calling it the airport humiliation of a black CEO. Hashtags like #Justice for Maya and #Sky High Scandal were trending worldwide. What began as a cruel joke was now a corporate nightmare in motion. Inside the private arrival lounge, Maya's phone buzzed non-stop, messages from journalists, partners, and even government officials. Her assistant, Clara James, followed behind, tablet in hand. "Maya, the board's already convened an emergency meeting back in New York. They want to know how you plan to respond." Maya adjusted her pearl necklace and said calmly, "We'll respond the way professionals do, through power and precision." She dialed her head of legal affairs, Attorney Malcolm Trent, a man known for dismantling corporations without ever raising his voice. "Malcolm," she said, I want every contract, every clause, and every compliance file Sky High has ever signed with us. Now, within the hour, she had everything she needed. Sky High Airlines had not only humiliated a client, they had violated multiple ethics clauses in their partnership agreement with Ellison Aerotech. Then came another call, from Ethan Rhodes, the airline's CEO. His voice sounded strained this time. "Dr. Ellison, please, the media's all over this. My employees are being harassed online. Can we settle this quietly?" Maya's reply was razor-sharp. "You think this is about embarrassment, Mr. Rhodes? You allowed a culture where racism became entertainment. You don't get to decide how quietly this ends." He stammered. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," Maya replied, standing to leave the lounge, "that by tomorrow morning you won't have an airline to run." And as she walked out into the London sunlight, her next move would prove she wasn't bluffing. Back in her London hotel suite overlooking the Thames, Dr. Maya Ellison sat before her laptop, her expression composed but her mind blazing. The white blouse she wore seemed to glow under the city lights, and the soft pearls at her neck gleamed like tiny symbols of restraint she was quickly running out of. Her assistant, Clara James, entered with a folder of documents. "These are all the active contracts between Ellison Aerotech and Sky High Airlines," she said. "They rely on your navigation software in over 70% of their fleet." Maya's eyes narrowed slightly. "Then it's simple," she replied. "We pull the plug." She opened her laptop, initiating a confidential conference call with her senior executives. The moment her face appeared on screen, the room went silent. "Effective immediately," Maya announced. "Ellison Aerotech is suspending all technical support, updates, and licensing rights to Sky High Airlines." The executives exchanged shocked looks. One of them, Robert Kane, hesitated. "Dr. Ellison, that would ground their aircraft within hours." "That's the point," Maya said coolly. She typed one final command, sending a legal termination notice directly to Sky High's corporate servers. Her system beeped, a confirmation tone that marked the beginning of the end. Within minutes, the effects rippled across the industry. News alerts began flashing on screens around the world, breaking Sky High Airlines faces sudden technical suspension. Flights grounded across multiple cities. Clara looked up from her tablet, stunned. "Maya, they're calling. Everyone, from shareholders to the aviation board." Maya took a slow sip of her tea, her calm unshaken. "Good," she said. "Let them call." Her phone buzzed again. The caller ID read, "Ethan Rhodes." She smiled faintly. Let him sweat a little longer. The storm had officially begun, and Maya was controlling every drop of rain. The next morning, chaos swept through Sky High Airlines like wildfire. Airports across the country were paralyzed, flights grounded, passengers stranded, and frustrated customers demanding answers. Screens flashed red, system failure, navigation software offline. At Sky High headquarters, Ethan Rhodes, the airline's CEO, stormed into the control room. His usually sleek hair was disheveled, his voice cracking under pressure. "What the hell is happening?" "Get those planes moving," a technician replied nervously. "Sir, it's Ellison Aerotech's system. They've revoked our access. We can't reboot without their authorization." Ethan slammed his fist against the console. "Get Dr. Ellison on the phone. Now." Meanwhile, in her elegant London office suite, Dr. Maya Ellison sat across from her legal team. She was the picture of calm, white blouse immaculate, pearl necklace glinting faintly. "Malcolm," she said to her attorney, "make sure our legal statement is ready for release. I want every word to reflect truth, dignity, and accountability." Within hours, Ellison Aerotech issued an official press release, effective immediately. All partnerships with Sky High Airlines have been terminated following a verified incident involving racial misconduct against Dr. Maya Ellison, CEO of Ellison Aerotech. Our company stands firmly for equality, respect, and integrity. The statement went viral in minutes. Stock prices for Sky High Airlines began to plummet, over 60% down by midday. Investors fled, journalists flooded their offices. Ethan finally reached Maya by phone, desperation in his tone. "Dr. Ellison, please, we can fix this. Fire the staff, issue a public apology, whatever you need. But don't destroy us." Maya's voice was calm, almost gentle. "You destroyed yourselves, Mr. Rhodes. I'm just letting the world see it." Outside, reporters gathered at Sky High's gates, calling it the collapse of an airline. And Maya hadn't even begun her next move. By noon, Sky High Airlines was drowning in chaos. Hundreds of passengers stranded, flight crews confused, and the media parked outside their headquarters, like vultures circling a carcass. CEO Ethan Rhodes stood before a podium, his tie loose and sweat glistening on his forehead. "This was an isolated incident," he said, forcing a shaky smile for the cameras. "We've suspended the employees involved and issued an apology to Dr. Ellison. Sky High Airlines does not tolerate discrimination in any form, but it was too late." The internet wasn't buying it. On social media, Tiffany Brooks's video of the airport prank was being replayed millions of times, with captions like a joke that grounded an empire. Viewers dissected every second, her laughter, Brad's arrogance, Maya's calm, chilling response. In London, Dr. Maya Ellison watched the broadcast from her suite. Her assistant Clara stood nearby, reading live reactions aloud. "People are furious. Hashtag Ground Sky High is trending in 20 countries. Maya clasped her hands together, the light from her pearl bracelet glimmering faintly. "Good. The world should see what happens when disrespect hides behind a uniform." Just then, her lawyer Malcolm Trent entered, holding a tablet. "Maya, the FAA just called. They're opening an investigation into Sky High's safety and conduct policies. They want your testimony." Maya nodded. "Schedule it, and make sure it's televised." Clara looked surprised. "Televised? You're going public?" Maya's tone was firm but calm. "They humiliated me publicly. The truth will meet them in the same arena." Across the ocean, Ethan's phone buzzed non-stop. Lawyers, shareholders, regulators. One message made him pale. "Ellison Aerotech has requested a full federal audit of Sky High Airlines." Ethan whispered to himself, "She's not after revenge. She's after ruin," and he was absolutely right. 2 days later, the world watched as Dr. Maya Ellison stepped through the grand glass doors of the Federal Aviation headquarters in Washington, D.C. Cameras flashed from every direction, reporters shouting her name. Dressed impeccably in a white blouse, her pearls glowing softly against her skin, Maya looked every bit the icon of composure and quiet power. Beside her walked Clara James, her loyal assistant, holding a folder marked confidential. Behind them trailed attorney Malcolm Trent, calm as ever, carrying the weight of every document that would bury Sky High Airlines for good. Inside, the hearing room buzzed with tension. Ethan Rhodes sat at the opposite table, pale and sleepless. Tiffany Brooks and Brad were seated behind him, faces downcast, no trace of arrogance left. The chairperson cleared her throat. "Dr. Ellison, thank you for joining us. Please describe the incident that led to the termination of Sky High's contracts." Maya took a slow breath, her voice steady and clear. "I was humiliated in front of dozens of travelers for nothing more than my skin color. What was called a joke was, in truth, an act of racial degradation. But the deeper issue, Madam Chair, is that this culture didn't start at that counter. It started at the top." The room fell silent. Ethan shifted uncomfortably. Maya continued, her eyes unwavering. "Sky High Airlines profited from partnerships built on equality and innovation, values they violated the moment they allowed discrimination to exist unchecked." Malcolm slid a file across the table. Our internal investigation found documented complaints of racial bias among Sky High staff over the past 3 years, all ignored. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Ethan tried to interject, but the chairwoman's gavel struck. "Enough, Mr. Rhodes," she said. "We've heard enough." The verdict wasn't official yet, but the world already knew which side justice favored. The courtroom-style hearing room was so quiet, the clicking of a single pen echoed through it. Dr. Maya Ellison sat upright, her hands folded neatly on the table. Her pearls gleamed under the soft lights, symbols of her poise amidst chaos. Across from her, Ethan Rhodes looked like a man awaiting a storm he couldn't stop. The chairwoman of the Federal Aviation Board adjusted her glasses. "After reviewing the evidence, this committee finds Sky High Airlines in violation of multiple federal and ethical standards, including discriminatory, workplace conduct, passenger mistreatment, and breach of partnership contracts." Cameras flashed. Reporters scribbled furiously. Ethan's face turned pale as she continued, "Effective immediately. Sky High Airlines operating license is suspended pending further investigation." The words struck like thunder. Gasps rippled through the room. Tiffany buried her face in her hands. Brad stared at the floor, tears pooling at his feet. Maya's expression never changed, calm, dignified but resolute. Clara leaned close, whispering, "It's over, Maya. You did it." But Maya shook her head slightly. "No, Clara. Justice did it. Outside, the world was watching live. Social media exploded with celebration. #Justice for Maya trended globally. Major news anchors declared a black female CEO has just brought down one of the nation's largest airlines." Ethan stumbled toward Maya as the room cleared. "Please," he said hoarsely, "you have no idea what this will do. Thousands of employees, families, gone." Maya looked him squarely in the eye. "And how many lives did your company disrespect before today, Mr. Rhodes? Accountability has a price. You just learned how high it is." As she turned to leave, cameras followed her every step, her white blouse glowing under the flashlights, her pearls radiant like victory itself. The world had just witnessed history. The morning after the verdict, headlines blanketed every major network. Sky-high airlines grounded indefinitely, blared across screens, stock prices plummeted to near zero. Investors scrambled to pull out. By midday, Ethan Rhodes was forced to announce mass layoffs. Over 10,000 employees were sent home as planes sat idle on runways across the world. At the heart of it all, Dr. Maya Ellison watched from her penthouse suite in New York. She wasn't celebrating. Her face was calm, her eyes distant. She wore the same white blouse and pearls she had worn during the hearing, as if to remind herself that strength didn't need armor, it only needed grace. Her assistant Clara James entered, holding a tablet. "Maya, it's official. Sky High filed for bankruptcy this morning. Their CEO resigned an hour ago." Maya took a slow breath. "So, it's done," she said softly, but Clara shook her head. "Not entirely. Look at this." She turned the screen toward her. Thousands of comments flooded social media. Pilots, attendants, engineers and passengers thanking Maya for standing up for dignity and equality. A pilot's post read, "Because of Dr. Ellison, my daughter believes she can be both black and respected in aviation. Thank you." Tears welled in Clara's eyes. "You didn't just bring them down, you lifted people up." Maya smiled faintly. "Sometimes," she said, "the fall of one corrupt system is the rise of something better." Just then, her phone buzzed. It was a call from President Karen Whitfield, the first black woman to hold office. "Maya," the president said warmly, "you've done more for justice in aviation than decades of policy. Let's talk about your future." Maya looked out over the skyline, pearls catching the sunlight. Her storm had ended, but her legacy was just beginning. The call from President Karen Whitfield had been short, but its weight lingered. "Meet me at the White House tomorrow," she'd said. "It's time you take your fight from the boardroom to the nation." The next morning, Dr. Maya Ellison arrived at the White House gates. The press lined the sidewalks, shouting her name as cameras flashed. Dressed once again in her white blouse, her signature pearl jewelry gleaming like quiet armor, she walked through the halls of power with her trademark calm. Inside the Oval Office, President Whitfield rose to greet her with a genuine smile. "Dr. Ellison," she said, shaking her hand, "what you've done is more than corporate justice, it's social history." Maya replied modestly, "I didn't plan to make history, Madam President. I just refused to be humiliated." The president nodded thoughtfully. "That's exactly why we need you. I want you to lead the newly established National Council for Ethical Aviation. We'll reform this industry from the inside out. No more discrimination, no more silence." Maya hesitated for the first time. "I've spent my life building technology, not bureaucracy." The president smiled. "Then build something better, build fairness." Later, as Maya stepped outside onto the White House lawn, reporters swarmed her. One shouted, "Dr. Ellison, what's next for you after Sky High's shutdown?" She paused, letting the wind catch her hair where the razor's scar had barely begun to heal. "What's next," she said, her voice strong, "is rebuilding an industry where respect comes before revenue." The crowd erupted in applause. Cameras captured the moment, the pearls, the pride, the power. Inside, President Whitfield watched from her window and whispered, "That woman just changed aviation forever." Maya Ellison hadn't just won justice, she'd become its living symbol. 6 months later, Dr. Maya Ellison stood on the runway of Ellison Aerotech's new training academy, watching as the first group of scholarship students prepared for takeoff. Dozens of young men and women, black, Asian, Latino, white, stood shoulder to shoulder, united by one shared dream to fly. Maya wore her signature white blouse and pearl necklace, a symbol that had become iconic worldwide. Her assistant, Clara James, handed her a press briefing. "You've got CNN, BBC and Reuters covering this live. They're calling it the rebirth of aviation ethics." Maya smiled softly. "It's not about rebirth, Clara. It's about correction." Behind them, banners read, "The Ellison Flight Initiative, Equality in the Skies." The program offered full scholarships to underrepresented youth in aviation, funded entirely by the money Ellison Aerotech once made from sky-high contracts. As the students saluted before their first training flight, Maya felt something stir within her, a sense of peace she hadn't felt since that humiliating day at the airport. Malcolm Trent approached, holding a tablet. "Maya, the President just signed the new Aviation Equality Act. Your testimony helped pass it. Discrimination in airlines is now a federal offense." The crowd broke into applause as Maya stepped onto the stage. Cameras zoomed in as she spoke. "6 months ago, I was told humiliation was just a joke. Today, I stand before future pilots who will ensure dignity is never the punchline again." The audience rose to their feet. Reporters captured every word, every glimmer of her pearls, every ounce of power in her poise. From tragedy, she had built transformation. From pain, she had created policy. As the first training jet roared into the sky, Maya whispered to herself, "That's what justice sounds like." The morning sun glistened off the runway as Dr. Maya Ellison stood before a sea of journalists, her white blouse crisp and her pearls gleaming softly against her skin. It had been exactly 1 year since that infamous day when airline staff humiliated her on live video, an act that once symbolized prejudice but now stood as the turning point for a movement. "Dr. Ellison," a young reporter called out, "after everything you've achieved, do you ever think about those who mocked you that day?" Maya paused, her gaze calm but strong. "Every day," she said, "because forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's remembering without giving hate a home." Behind her, a massive banner fluttered in the wind. Ellison Aerotech, the future takes flight. The company had just unveiled its first all-electric passenger aircraft, named the Phoenix, in honor of her rebirth through fire. As the jet's engines hummed to life, the crowd erupted into applause. Among them stood the same young flight attendant who once joined in the laughter. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, "I'm sorry." Maya turned, met her gaze, and nodded gently. "Then do better. Help someone else rise." Malcolm Trent, now her chief operations officer, approached with a proud smile. "The world is watching, Maya." She looked toward the horizon where the plane lifted gracefully into the clouds. "Good," she said. "Let them see what happens when you clip a woman's wings. She builds her own sky." As cameras flashed and the Phoenix soared, Maya's story became legend. Not just the woman who shut down an airline, but the one who opened the heavens for everyone who had ever been told they didn't belong. And this time, the world stood and saluted her flight.